Hello, all you lovely witches and warlocks and sorceress and sorcerers and more alliterations. Today I'm going to blow your mind. I'm going to tell you the meaning of life as I understand it. But first, I want you to imagine something, okay? We're going to use our imagination, which we do a lot. Picture an elephant in a room. Surrounding the elephant, you have a bunch of different people, all wearing blindfolds. Now, the first person reaches out and they grab the elephant's trunk. And they feel this big trunk, and the trunk is prehensile and it's moving. And this person thinks, okay, clearly I've grabbed a snake, a big python. On the other side of this elephant, you have someone reaching out and, oh, what are you talking about? It's not a snake, it's a cord. And they're pulling on the elephant's tail. You have someone else reaching out and touching the elephant's leg, thinking, this is a tree trunk. And over by the elephant's ear, someone reaches out, grabs that ear, and thinks, this is a leaf. I'm thinking maybe some sort of tree, big palm leaf, maybe paper. That's religion. All of these people represent all different religions. They're reaching out. They're not wrong, but if they would just work together, put together what they're each sort of understanding, they would have a better idea of what is really in front of them, the elephant in the room. So I want to be careful, and I want you to be careful, because I'm going to use my own language. I'm going to use words. And words create boxes, right? You say chair in a different language, maybe French or Spanish, where objects have gender. It affects your perception of reality differently. And if your understanding of the meaning of life, depending on your culture or your background, your own biases, your own experiences, is different than mine, then forget about the literal words I'm using and focus more on the heart, okay? That deeper meaning, and try and put it in perspective. And I should blow your mind. Why do I know the meaning of life? My sources include my entire existence. All the media I've ever consumed that has a spiritual message. Star Wars, right? Even horror movies have this. People I've talked to, reading all these books about the craft, all the spiritual books I've read. In high school, I went through a Buddhist phase. Well, I picked up a book about world religions and I flipped through. I was searching for answers, and I really did stay the longest in Buddhism. That really appealed to me, and the meditation especially. I didn't stick with it because you weren't allowed to drink. Also, magicians that I love and that inspire me, like Grant Morrison. I'm going to be telling you things that come directly from Grant Morrison. Matt Oren, Christopher Penczak, Jason Miller, authors that I really respect. I've read their witchcraft books and I say, aha, they are onto something. They know something. I put that all together. Then just my own personal experience with meditation, with dreams I've had. But most importantly of all, talking to spirits, especially the spirits that I try and help cross over, and it turns out they can't because they're not allowed or they're not ready yet. And asking why gave me a lot of interesting answers. And of course, whatever deities, Hecate. And I don't just mean praying and having faith. I mean, no, talk to them. Ask them. What do they say? Right? And I'm put all that together, and now I have my understanding of the meaning of life and the role of the witch or magic practitioner, warlock, shaman, Medicine Man, whatever. Okay. Over several 100 billion years ago, a small blue marble floated in an endless void of space. Now, could you imagine if I spoke like this the whole time? Planet Earth, little tiny blue marble, floating in space. Billions and billions of years ago, okay? Where did life come from? It's hard for us to imagine, but picture what it would be like outside of time. We exist in time, but where's we experience the present. Where's the person that you are? Where are they 5 minutes ago? Oh, you could say, oh, I was in the bathroom. But no, point to that person. You can't, because you're in the present and they're in the past. We experience time, but there is such thing as outside of time. And if you're outside of time, looking in, what does it look like? Right? I'm outside of time. This book is time, right? I flip to this page and it's the year 1986, and I flip over here and it's 1900, right? Oh wow, the beginning of time. Oh, cavemen. But outside of time, you see the whole book. You see that all these pages are together. Stick with me. I'm gonna get to it. So what does it look like outside of time? Have you ever held up a mirror in front of a mirror and you just see yourself going back like for infinity? It's like a giant centipede. So follow that centipede, and it goes around through your day and your previous day, and the weeks and years go by, and you're zooming around every place you've ever been, and those places are also moving, and you go up into your mom, and your mom goes around in her centipede and goes up into her mom, and the same with the fathers. And trees, they shrink to, like, imagine the whole world is just going in reverse. Remember Rewind from VHS? Or if you go on YouTube and you hold the little, like, you can scroll where you want to, like, enter the video. Go backwards and picture time moving backwards. Trees shrink down, turn into seeds. Seeds go back up to a tree, shrink down to fish, back into the mommy fish, and then back. Birds go back into their eggs, back up to the nest, back into the egg, back into the bird. All of time rewinds. And what you have is billions upon billions upon billions of years ago, a single cell divided. You retrace evolution, the first mammals that walked on land, follow them back into the ocean, all those fish, back into the other fish, back into the other fish, back into microbes, back into microorganisms, back. It started with one single cell that divided. That is a seed that was planted. Who planted it? It came from outside of time. And this universe, this was explained to Grant Morrison, who blew my mind, and then I'm repeating it here. But the universe was created to grow things, because you need time to grow things. Outside of time, you can't grow anything. You need something with time. And that allows things to grow and spread out, those big, long centipedes, right? What this means is, with that single cell, is we're all the same thing. Every one of us, that same cell exists today. It has been replicated, divided, mutated, transformed over and over and over again. But you trace the family tree of that cell, that same DNA that is in all living things is in us, and it started with that one cell. We are all the same thing. We're all one big organism that doesn't know it, because we perceive time and we experience the present and we don't see the huge long centipedes of ourselves all connected. I only experience my present self, and that gives me the illusion of individuality. It gives everybody the illusion of individuality. Okay? Let me show you something.
Are you familiar with your grade 5 science? We are going to discuss the water cycle. Planet Earth. And this is your life. The individual. You. Everything that you are. You are a drop of water. Now what happens when you die? What happens when a drop of water dies? It disappears. But it turns to vapor. Now that vapor is invisible. You can barely see it. You can barely feel it. Most people they can't see it at all, right? And that vapor can pass. It can cross the time barrier to the afterlife. The afterlife is when that vapor condenses into a cloud, right? Following the water cycle. Big cloud, all the vapor, all the spirits existing there in the afterlife. And what there also is outside of time is God, the Akashic records, the source, the great spirit. Whatever word, whatever box you want to put it in, think of it as an ocean. All the drops, imagine all those drops in that ocean together. It's everything. It's everywhere, all at once outside of time. Good movie. It is omnipotent. It knows everything because it is everything. Everything that ever happened, all the drops that will ever experience what it's like inside of time, outside of time, there they are, with all their experiences all together. So what about deities? Well, if the source, the divine ocean, wants to enter time, it has to pass through. And then it also has to suffer through that perception of present time, the individual. So it enters time here, appears to a culture. That culture gives it a lens, an interpretation. They asked for a specific version of a chunk of everything. Maybe that everything is the mother that they view. And as it passes through time, it takes on the form of the mother. Hecate. Or you can have a more Christian approach. This is an angel. Over here, we have a thunder god. Okay? All of them represent different aspects of this ocean. Just a scoop, a handful of the ocean. But when it enters, it crosses through time, it becomes an individual. Okay? Now, across all different kinds of cultures, you will notice the same 7 or so, depending, archetypes for deities, right? For example, the war god, whether it's Tyr, Mars, Ares, right? Thunder gods like Thor, Zeus, Jupiter. Mothers like Mary, right? But there's only so many different variations of the everything. You want to summon the god of war? Everything that is in here that is war, that is anger, that is competitiveness, that is aggression, that part of the everything comes through the time and appears in that form, perceived by a culture that gives it a mask, so to speak. Down here we have Earth. All the drops boop, 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 in time on this Earth, not realizing that they're all water. They all come from the source, and they're all going to return to the source.
So the water cycle. Drop comes down, evaporates. Comes back down as a drop, evaporates. These are your past lives, okay? And what is the purpose of these past lives? And that's where good and evil come into play. My understanding, even when I started making these videos of the nature of good and evil, angels and demons, has grown, has evolved, has changed with the new information that comes in. And at this point in time, evil is the absence of good. Good is something you can add, and it's something you can take away. Evil is that which is without it. Okay? Just like heat. You can add heat, you can take heat away. It is energy, but cold is not energy. Cold is nothing. Cold is what you feel with, depending on how much energy is there. If there's not a lot of energy and not a lot of heat, you feel cold. There's like absolute zero, right? Where just zero heat at all. Or you can have the center of the sun, which is septillion something or other degrees. Very hot, okay? That's the nature of good and evil. Oh, I also forgot to mention sources on this. The Kabbalion, the Hermetic principles. If you do reading on witchcraft, you've probably come across the Hermetic principles at some point or another. That definitely informs all of my understanding of this. So, why do we have these past lives? To grow, to learn. That big ocean needs to experience everything and learn everything, and it has to become perfect and good. Which means it can't be empty, because then there's no ocean. So the spirits I've talked to who are unable to cross over are stuck as vapor, stuck as spirits, until they learn and grow. And for many of them, the way they get across, and they've done it with me, and I have videos going back, they have to acknowledge that what they did, whatever it was, the guys who killed that homeless guy out in the woods, or such and such serial killer I talked to, or they have to acknowledge, hey, what I did was wrong. That's the first step in an apology, is you have to admit that what you did was wrong. You have to express remorse. You can't just say, like, same with parents and children, like, apologize to your sister. Sorry. That's not a real apology, and you make them do it again. They have to feel that remorse, which is hard if you don't have empathy. We'll get to that in a second. And they have to make a commitment not to do it again. That's usually enough for these spirits to cross over. Okay? We're aiming for that ocean. If we're evil, we're freezing. Now, my scientific analogy of the water cycle might not be entirely accurate in terms of like the nature of spirit, but we often even refer to evil as being cold, cold-hearted. You're cold as ice, man. Damn, that was cold. Cold-blooded, right? It's ice. You are so far from approaching the afterlife. Vapor, you have a whole lot of steps to get through, right? To get there. So, be good. Learn empathy, okay? Do good things, grow, learn what you can, experience what you were meant to experience. Higher will, true will, which is very important in terms of spell casting. So one way to look at higher will is destiny, fate, God's plan. I see higher will as you've gone through all these different past lives. Higher will is, okay, when you were born, this is where you need to start. At the end of your life is where it ends. Higher will is all of that. Here's where it is, here's where it is. This is all you need to experience in order to learn and grow, to keep pursuing this higher will, to keep heading towards joining that ocean. Because you're not joining it until you're ready. And when we do spells, we're trying to align them with higher will, because If it isn't, it's probably not going to work. And I use the example all the time. There is no spell I could ever craft that's going to make me an NBA basketball player. It's not going to happen. I'm 5'10", and I'm also 38. I cannot just burn a candle and write an incantation and then I'm going to be a basketball player. That is not within my higher will. That is not in my destiny. But sometimes I can have desires that I can still manifest them if I approach them from a different perspective that might line up with higher will. Okay? We'll get into that. I'm also working on another video right now. I'm working on 2 videos right now, but the second video won't drop right away because it's going to be a bit of a 2-parter where I'm going to walk you through crafting a spell. I'm going to do a spell, you're going to watch, and I'm going to stop and then finish the video once the results have been achieved, right? So, have I covered all of that? Am I as confusing as I can hear myself sounding? Hopefully not. The role of the witch. What does the witch do? Oh, we brew potions and we put curses on people and we ride brooms and go, thanks Hollywood for that. So throughout all of humanity, every culture that has ever existed, we all started out as tribal people in Africa, and we've spread out. And you take away society, and if there's a nuclear war, we're going back to that anyway. We're again tribal people adapting and living off the land. And in those tribes, all over the world, there was always someone, whether it's a firekeeper, shaman, medicine man, healers, priests and priestesses. I could go on and on and on. You get the idea. Witch doctor. Did I say that one already? Anyway. The two-spirit people. These are the people who act as a bridge between the spirit world and the material world. The things we perceive, that which is invisible to most people. Shh. Talking about the meaning of life here. And let me just see what I wrote about the witch's role. Whatever language, perspective, culture, or practice, the witch is one who plays with the invisible, the energy of spirit, aura, dreams, and mind are too subtle for most people to perceive. It takes focus, intention, and practice. That's what a witch does. Through our interaction with the invisible, we learn the meaning of life, we pursue our higher will, we use the secrets of the invisible to craft, express, and manifest our pursuit. Our role is to act as a bridge, a mediator, translator between the invisible and people who ask for help. That last point's important. We do not go door to door, knocking, saying, "Can I tell you about the good word of Hecate and Cernunnos?" We don't do that, okay? It's obnoxious, and also we have a bad reputation created by a long history of those who wanted to persecute us, right? Everyone sees the witch as that Halloween archetype. But through divine synchronicity, you may notice, you may find that you're in the right place at the right time to say the right thing to help someone who needs it. One thing I noticed when I started Spells and Fortunes, my little side business, is I didn't know what to expect. Like, you say you're going to do tarot readings, you put that up on Google, and people contact you for a tarot reading. No one was doing it for fun. Everyone who comes to me is in crisis. and they leave feeling a lot better. And that tells you something. We tend to want to handle problems ourselves, but sometimes deep down, we want bigger, deeper meaning, right? And it was their own intuition that led them to me. Nobody comes to me because, hey, can you perform a spell to help me hook up my new PlayStation? No, it's not like that. They're in some sort of spiritual crisis. That's when they go to the witch. Don't go to them, but be there for when they come to you. And when you don't have people to help, you're pursuing your craft. You're practicing spellcraft. You're practicing your jars. You're practicing meditation. You're pursuing higher will. Learning as much as you can. What are you good at? What are you not? Because it's an art form. And art is an umbrella term for a lot of different skills. A dancer is an artist. A sculptor is an artist. A person who doodles is an artist. And they're all expressing themselves, but through different ways. And it's the same with witchcraft. I'm really good at the spirit stuff. Okay, spirit work. Spellcraft is always getting better, but the spirit work just seems to come naturally for me. Astral travel? Not so much. I don't know how a two-spirit person astral travels, and having that little hint of doubt is really holding me back. But I'm going to keep trying. Whereas, I'm sure there are tons of people out there who probably astral travel and maybe never read a book on witchcraft in their life. They just do it naturally. Oh, I meet these people in real life and they tick me off because I'm jealous. They can do something I can't. They often suffer from sleep paralysis. And in that sleep paralysis, they can leave their body and travel around. That's awesome. That's wonderful. So what are your strengths? Play to them. As I was talking, I remembered something else. I was like, I got to talk about this. And I wanted to finish up that thought. And now I can't remember what I was going to say. Ego. Ego and empathy, right? Good and evil. Going back to good and evil, ego and empathy, right? Because we have this illusion of individuality, we see ourselves as separate from everything. The tree outside my window is the same creature that I am, just different parts of the body. But we forget that because we see ourselves as individuals. And that individuality is a problem because we now have egos. Egos are selfish. They're self-serving. They see a self, right? And they want to serve that. And you look at history, you look at war, genocide. Oh, I guess those are big too. But Genghis Khan, right? The rape of Nanking. Things that have went on here in North America with our First Nations people. It's awful. And where does that come from? The collective ego of all these selves that didn't know we were all connected. But at the same time, you can also look through history and see other things, wonderful things. Trade, education, exchanging ideas, compassion, medicine, right? It's not all bad. It's not all good. It's both. There's ego and empathy. Those of us who maybe we don't consciously know it, but we feel it, right? That's what empathy is, when you feel what someone else is feeling. The reason you feel what they feel is because you're the same thing. You're just trapped in this prison of being an individual. And when you cross over as a spirit, it's this sense of, whoa, oh, here I am. This is where I've always been. This world is a dream. Out there, I've heard it described as all of this is like watching a black and white television, And then the other side, when you get to visit it, is like, whoo, HD, you know, vivid color, surround sound. It's more real than this. And you're all going to experience it. Any questions? Did I blow your mind? So, if you disagree, do you disagree because of the language I use, some of the words that put concepts in boxes? Or fundamentally you disagree entirely on the whole concept? Oh, here's another little thing. Here's something that blew my mind. I remember being a kid with my mom. We're driving and there's a beautiful pink sunset. My mom does not have many spiritual beliefs. She's, doesn't believe in that stuff. But I was always that child with the imagination. And I'm looking at the sunset and she asked me, "Do you believe in God?" And I said, "I have to, because imagination exists." Where is imagination? I can see something, but it's not there. I can taste it, but where is it? I can touch it. I can relive past experiences, but where is that imagination, right? Rereading, which I reread a lot, he refers to it as the screen of your mind, right? The witch's eye, right? Your imagination. But where is it? You take out the brain and you see this wrinkly, pink, mushy flesh ball. And they're like, "Oh, see this? That's your imagination." No, it's not. That's a piece of meat. Where's that pirate ship I was just floating on with a purple sheep in my dream? And the mystery of imagination always confounded me. And I had to believe in something higher. And then one day I'm reading a Batman comic book written by Grant Morrison. And in this story, Batman is hallucinating, or maybe not, a little imp Batmite from the 5th dimension. And he says, "Are you really an imp from the 5th dimension, or are you just a figment of my imagination?" And the Batmite says to him, "Imagination is the 5th dimension." That's what led me down the Grant Morrison rabbit hole, to hearing him talk, to learning about sigil magic and all this stuff. But yeah, skeptics have a tendency to be dismissive. You just imagined it. Witches do not dismiss that, because the imagination is reality. It is all part of reality. It's just in another dimension. Okay? It is in the space between spaces. It's there, but we cannot perceive in that, in this 3rd dimension, we can't perceive it. But outside of time, you can. And once you study meditation and consciousness and witchcraft, you understand a little bit better of what the imagination is. It's, to quote Indiana Jones in the Raiders of the Lost Ark, "It is a radio for talking to God." You can fantasize, and you're sending signals out, trying to manifest your desires, whether you realize it or not. Expressing yourself unconsciously, whether you realize it or not, when you daydream and think and fantasize. Or you can receive signals through that dimension, which is what we do. We practice with the invisible. The imagination is the 5th dimension. We're all the same thing. A single cell divided. The water cycle. Ah! I guess that's it for now. Stay tuned. It might be a week or two, but I'm working on another video where I will walk you through a new spell that I'm going to attempt. So you're going to see me, all the steps I take in crafting the spell, performing the ritual. I don't know what ritual that's going to be yet, because part of the steps I take is consulting with spirits to say, hey, what's the best way to do this spell? And then hopefully get an update on that once the results of that spell come in, and we can see how well it worked. Now that you know that everything is the same thing, it's a lot easier to love everyone, isn't it? It's a lot easier to forgive everyone. So what if someone else's ego hurt you or them? In the grand scheme of things outside of time, that doesn't matter, right? So just continue to love. That's a good message to end this video on. I love you guys.